Here on The Colour of Country Life, we're speaking with Dennis Voznesenski from Rabobank. Great to have you back with us in 2022, Dennis.
Great to be here, Ricky.
Now, I think since the last time we spoke, things have got a little bit more tense. That's probably an understatement over on in the Ukraine-Russia border areas, and that's having a major impact on global wheat prices.
Yeah, that's right. We've seen prices go up quite substantially around 6% since the start of the year, but you compare it to last year, it's around 24% higher. Now, we're already in a year with tight supplies. Demand was stronger. There was countries in the Middle East and Africa who wanted to shore up supplies to make sure the populations were fed in a year where supply chains are having issues. And at the same time, those production issues. And now, not only that, but on top of all the other factors, we're having this possibility of a conflict in the Black Sea between Ukraine and Russia, who together produce around 30% of global exports of wheat. They're also a large barley producer. They're also a large rapeseed producer. So it's quite a big deal if it eventuates. That's a big if at this point. It might not, but it's definitely something everyone's keeping an eye on.
And I guess it's also having impact on input prices as well, because it's pushing up the oil prices as well. So farmers have got a sort of double or grief on that front, but possibly some positives looking further ahead when it comes to what they might get for their grain.
Yeah, the Black Sea issue might actually be quite a big risk for farm inputs or for chemicals because, for example, let's say that the Ukraine crisis isn't a massive deal. It doesn't eventuate in a full-scale conflict. But if sanctions come about and they get put on by the West on, say, Russia and also Belarus, who's quite friendly with Russia and where troops are stationed at the moment, together those two countries produce around 30% of the world's potash. So it is a massive deal if something does eventuate because the world gets quite a bit of its chemicals from that part of the world. And if energy prices go up, say in Europe, the cost of producing chemicals even in Europe outside of the Black Sea is going to go up as well.
Yes, some massive sort of macro challenges there. Just looking on the local pricing front, I guess we're seeing some of those global prices ripple through into the domestic markets.
A little bit at this point, but the larger factor domestically at the moment would be the harvest pressure. So we've seen prices come down from their peaks before harvest, if we take wheat as an example, by around 15% in South Australia. So this is supporting prices overall, but the bigger factor domestically has been the harvest pressure. Speaking to grain traders around the country, they've just been saying we haven't seen this much, whether it be canola or wheat. There's just so much of it around that storage is getting filled, and farmers are still willing to sell it because margins are quite good. If you look at canola or wheat, prices are still looking quite good.
Yeah, well, there was this projection from ABARES that we were heading for a record crop, and there was massive numbers that were planted. But I guess given the global supply constraints, it might work out that farmers didn't sort of go into a glut situation, at least not yet.
Yeah, well, so this is my view. Say if we take, for example, canola. Yes, right now there is a large amount of supply online in Australia, and hence it's putting pressure on prices. But once we move through that harvest pressure, say into mid-February, end of Jan, mid-February, that harvest pressure might ease. And until around April, maybe mid-year, there doesn't seem to be a reason why there would be downward pressure on prices, because by April we'll start knowing if the Northern Hemisphere is going to have decent cropping conditions for canola, but there won't really even be new supply on until mid-year, until maybe July in Europe. So there's still quite a decent window between when harvest pressure eases here and new supply comes online in the Northern Hemisphere, where farmers might be able to see some more favourable pricing.
And I guess farmers, when it comes to planting decisions, what they're going to go ahead with for the next cropping season, they're probably fairly advanced in that in this stage? I
think it'll still depend on how things look for pricing, and for each farmer it'll be different depending on their individual circumstances when they decide what type of things they're going to plant.
Well, Dennis, thanks for that analysis, and certainly the geopolitical tensions, we'll watch them closely for a number of reasons, but thanks for your input on that today.
Thanks, Ricky.